Welcome back to Creators of the Lost Art. And on this Focus on Franklin Friday, it's very special because it is obviously Christmas Eve. So we're all ready for Santa to show up. And I thought I'd go back and talk about, kind of follow up with our first Christmas dealing with cancer. So as I said in my previous video, we had just gone through 30 days of radiation. He had done all of his pre-chemo testing and we were about to start IV chemo. Now on paper, what that was supposed to look like was that he would be hospitalized for 3 days while receiving IV chemo. He would stay in the hospital for 2 additional days after that for them to observe him and check blood work and make sure everything looked good. And then he'd be able to go home. He would have to go to clinic the following Mondays for 3 additional Mondays after that for them to access his port, do blood work, look for platelet counts and things like that, and just general health. And then we would start back that routine the following month. So 1 round, 1 month for 8 months. So 8 rounds of chemo. We went into it thinking we kind of knew what to expect. Radiation was pretty severe, so we kind of thought, well, it's going to be a lot like that. Not quite. The first time he had the first round, Ron and I had to take turns. We had one of us would stay in the hospital with Franklin while the other parent stayed home with the girls. And that was hard, just being separate that long of a time. So it was tough, just the dynamics of us being apart. So for the first round, that first month, Ron was in the hospital with them. He did his 3 days of the IV chemo. On the 4th day was them observing Franklin. And the craziest thing happened. Ron took Franklin into the bathroom that was in his hospital room. And at that exact time, the doctors were doing their round. So they had all just come into Franklin's room. And as Ron was coming out of the bathroom carrying Franklin, Franklin just began to cough uncontrollably and then gasping. He couldn't catch his breath. Ron said that it looked like his chest was just caving in, trying to get oxygen. They laid him on the bed, and it was like he was trying to breathe through an extremely thin straw. He just could not get any breath. So the doctors immediately went into action. Yeah, they immediately went into action, brought a crash cart out, gave him an EpiPen, put him on oxygen, and kind of gave it about 10-15 minutes to see what would happen. Thankfully, everything balanced out. And all I can really say about that moment was just how incredible God is. And I know that kind of might sound odd, feeling that way in that moment, but what I've come to learn is that it's really easy to see the bad in life. I mean, just life in general. Our bank accounts are low, our jobs are stressful, our kids are struggling in school. It's easy to see bad things, but it's just as easy to see the God in every situation. I mean, that was going to happen. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was a very strange reaction, but it did. But what a better time to have an allergic reaction than when your room is completely filled with doctors who are ready and completely go into action the second you need them. I choose to see God in every situation, but especially in the bad. You know, they did test to find out what possibly caused that, because that's not a normal chemo reaction. Everything came back clear, his lungs, everything, no other problems. Happy to say that in the other 7 rounds of chemo, he never had that response again, thank goodness. So the next day was his last day to observe in the hospital, and he got sent home. Rule of thumb for chemo treatment is that at any point, if they start running a fever of 100.5 or greater, they have to go to the ER. Wait a second, buddy. They have to go. You lost your hat? Hat's back on. We're good. So he was only home for about 2 days and his fever spiked. So we took him through the ER and they admitted him. And he was so sick. I just remember them putting wet, cold compresses all over his body, trying to drop that fever. He He was on a Tylenol ibuprofen regimen just back to back, and nothing seemed to bring that fever down. And this was our first Christmas to ever be apart. So I'm in the hospital at this point with Franklin. Ron's home with the girls, and we're just not together. And something that's always been just magical about Franklin is he loves the Christmas tree. I've got pictures of him just sitting and just staring up at it. And even though Children's was doing their best, everything was decorated, the staff was all, dressed up in Christmas attire, it still wasn't home. And as the weeks passed, we worried if we were going to be home for Christmas. Thankfully, 2 days before Christmas, his fever finally broke and we were able to go home. And that was just such an incredible Christmas, because even though he was still very sick and very weak, he couldn't hold anything down once again. We were a family and we were together. And I have this tradition where all 3 kids will sit in front of the Christmas tree Christmas morning, matching pajamas, and have the years. And I track that. And just a few months earlier, we got the diagnosis of Franklin's tumor and how bad it was. And at that moment, I thought, I can't imagine that Christmas picture without him in it. And at the time, I wasn't sure if we were still going to be a family of 5 at Christmas. But not only were we a family of 5, we were all home in front of the Christmas tree together. So I just hope to encourage you guys. Christmas can be crazy, can be hectic, but man, what an opportunity to just be thankful of the ones in our lives, to embrace the crazy, love on the kids, call your parents, your siblings, and just be thankful to be together, because lots of unknowns in the future. But today, right now, what we have, that's what matters. Merry Christmas, everybody. Stay shiny.
Yeah, bye-bye. Not again.
Like that? All right, can you see?
Bye-bye.
That's not what we do.
Did that.
Why did you do that? All right, there.
Okay.
What if you just stick it straight up?
Okay, baby.
Okay. All right.
I was just helping you.
I know. All right, you ready to try again? Ready? Okay. Welcome back.